Hey there, happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen tonight. You're watching another healthy meal in the making here at Cook With Me TV. And tonight I'm very excited to be using a celery root. I've got a few of these guys that I just washed. They're in my sink right now. And I wanted to use these because I did find them at Sous Chef the other day and I looked at them and I was like, man, those things look a little weird. And if I think they look weird, then I think most people think they look weird. And to be honest, this is kind of a turnoff, isn't it? Kind of like, what do you do with this thing? So I wanted to bring it on the show tonight and really feature it and show you how delicious it can be and how simple it is to actually cook with it. So all you do is peel the outside off. And what we're going to do tonight is saute it up with a little bit of garlic and onion, salt and pepper. We're going to throw a little bit of butter in there and we're going to puree it up and serve it under some seared sea scallops. And then we've got some greens that we'll put on the side with it. So let me know if you are cooking with me tonight. Hello. Hey, Evan and June. Thanks y'all for tuning in. So good to see you here. Hey, Colleen, joining from the living room. She says, yep, weird. It is weird. Looks kind of weird. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for joining. Good to see you on. Are you cooking with me tonight? Let me know. So if you are cooking with me tonight, go ahead and get out all of your ingredients. So get out these celery root guys. If you haven't yet washed them, no big deal. We'll get to that. Get out the greens that you chose. So I got some wild arugula from the grocery store, and these were grown in Taylorville, Illinois from Clearwater Farms. And I was really surprised to see them. I got them at Hy-Vee, which, no offense, Hy-Vee, but I don't think you carry too much local produce. So I was really surprised to see these there. And it's a lot different than the arugula that you normally see at the grocery store or even the farmer's market. It's very small and thin, which I kind of like this. Now, if you're not using arugula, no big deal. Use whatever you have. Spinach, chard, kale. The point is to get some kind of leafy green in. And then scallops, of course, which I've got some scallops here. We got our nice sea scallops. And these are going to be the last things that we do because they don't take very long to cook. So let's go ahead and get going with this celery root. So go ahead and get your roots out. And we're going to grab a knife and just start to peel them. You could also grab a vegetable peeler. That will work too. But there might be some super knobby bits that you can't get with that vegetable peeler, which is why I'm also going to use a knife. And if you are wondering, does celery grow out of the top of this? Yes, it does. That is why it's called a celery root. So it usually just shoots up out the top here, and that's where celery comes from. So if we use our knife, we can see that once we peel this knobby kind of bark looking outer layer off, the soft white flesh appears from underneath. So pretty easy, right? You might want to give your celery roots another scrub or a rinse under the water after you do the peeling process, just because some dirt might have still remain. So yeah, pretty easy. Has anybody else? Hey, Diane, ta-da, she's here. Party can start now. Has anybody ever cooked with celery root before? I'm curious. Or have you maybe had it at a restaurant? Let me know. It smells of celery. I can smell it now. Once you get to this huge root, just use your knife to cut that bit off. It's going to be pretty difficult to get all the skin off around that. And so we're going to want to try to get all of these guys out because we are doing a puree and I want it to be super, super smooth. And it is going to mimic mashed potatoes. So this is a starchy vegetable, right? Because it's a root vegetable. It's less starchy than potatoes, and it's got a little bit more nutrition in it. So there's that. But because we are pureeing it and we want a silky smooth end product, we want to try to remove as many of these fibrous parts from the root itself. So tell me, has anybody ever had celery root before? I've had it at a restaurant and I think it was actually paired with scallops. Seems to be a nice pairing. And, you know, You don't have to serve this with scallops, of course. If you don't like scallops or you're not a big seafood fan, you could serve it with some other kind of protein. But I think if you're wanting to just test celery root itself, you know, just use it, make it as a side dish for whatever it is that you're having one night, just to try it out. That way you don't have too many new things going on at one time. And if you don't like something, it doesn't feel like the entire meal is a complete bust. Colleen says she's had it, but she's never attempted at home. They're not always available either, I've noticed, at the grocery store or the market. Seasonal, of course. But they do have a very buttery, mild celery flavor. Celery is one of those foods that we use a lot when creating a base for soups and stews and stocks. So it's called a mirepoix, and it's celery, onion, and carrot. And that trio of vegetables is what starts to build flavor for those dishes. So, and the celery really does pack a lot of flavor when it's cooked. So you can imagine how flavorful the celery root is going to be. I told myself I was going to peel some of these before the show so that you wouldn't have to sit there watching me peel celery root the whole time. But I didn't get to that, and I apologize. I can do this quickly, though. I'm almost done. I just have one more root after this. And unfortunately, I don't think celery root is popular enough of a vegetable to have pre-peeled and pre-chopped in the produce section of our grocery stores just yet. I don't know, maybe one day it'll get there. Diane's saying the same. Hasn't, neither have I eaten or cooked. Have you seen this at the grocery store? Is it out and about where you are, where you're shopping? So if you are cooking with me, maybe you're not doing it now, but maybe you come back and cook with the replay, because that is super fun too. What you'll want to do is be prepared to saute this celery root with some onion and garlic, either in a deep saute pan or a large pot. So if you're like flying by me on peeling your celery roots, you can go ahead and get your pot ready by turning it up to about a medium heat and adding some olive oil there in the bottom. Okay, so these guys are looking pretty good. Now we're just going to chop these up into small pieces. If we want them to cook quickly, then we'll cut them small. So the smaller you cut something, the quicker it's going to cook. Woo. The peeler does work pretty well, I might say. You could do it faster with a knife and just cut around it, but you would lose a lot of the meat. You have to be careful about that. Otherwise, you waste like half of your celery root. Oh no, alas, I am allergic to scallops, especially sea scallops. I'm sorry. Are you allergic to shellfish in general? Because I would suggest shrimp, but not if you are allergic to shellfish. But again, you could do any protein with this. Chicken, beef, pork would be nice. Something on the grill would be really good placed over this. And you have seen it in stores. Yes, it's out and about right now. All right, I've got my pot on about a medium heat. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil in here. And we're gonna add, I said earlier, we're gonna add some butter. We'll add that when we start pureeing it up. So let's get these babies chopped. Has anybody seen that crazy advertising of celery juice being like a cleanser? I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of hoopla going around about how healthy and detoxing celery juice is. I don't know who comes up with all this stuff. It's like, oh, it's always the wrong information that goes viral. Why can't it ever be the right information? Oh, well, I cut this little guy open. You got some more root growing in there. So if that happens, just go ahead and get that out. Again, it's going to be hairy, and we don't want that in our food. And it won't get things as smooth as possible. No other shellfish. Gotcha. I'll remember. This would also be good as a soup. You could do like a celery root puree of a soup. Would be nice. You could do a hash. So you could treat this essentially like a potato. Kind of what it is. It does cook up a lot quicker than a potato. Looking good. Ooh. Getting a little squirrely in here. I'll try this with shrimp. Yum. What about crab or... Oh, no other shellfish, as in you're not allergic to any other shellfish. I thought you were saying, no, I can't eat any other shellfish. And then you suggested shrimp, and I was going to be like, oh, well, that's shellfish. I got it. I'll try this with shrimp. What about crab or lobster bits? Oh, that's a great idea. Yes, I think crab would be delicious. I personally am not a huge fan of lobster, but that's just me. But crab, oh yeah, I dig the crab. I love it when restaurants serve pureed soups with crab meat in the center. Oh, it's so good. It's delicious. Okay, last bit here. And then what we're gonna do is get some onion chopped, and we'll throw that right into the pot. So I've got one medium-sized yellow onion here. The yellow onions tend to have a little bit more sugar, nothing to be alarmed about, but important when wanting to give your dish a slightly sweeter, more mild onion flavor. So that's why I'm choosing the yellow onion tonight, because it's going to go really nicely with the slightly sweet butteriness of the celery root. But of course you could use any onion, and I'm sure it will taste just as, well, maybe not just as delicious, but it'll still taste delicious. Can it be eaten raw? Yes, it can be. And I actually saw a recipe online where they shaved it really, really thin and put it into a salad. That looked really good. Okay, let's go ahead and get this onion into the pot. Yeah, I haven't experimented with raw celery root yet, but maybe I will. And if you do it too, let me know what you make and how it turned out. I'd be curious to know. Put a little bit of salt in here and a little bit of pepper. Oh, it smells good already. I love it when onion hits a hot pan. It releases a delicious onion smell immediately. So good. We'll let that cook down for just a minute. We're gonna come over here and chop a little bit of garlic. Hey, Ben, thanks for joining. Hope you're doing well. Say hello to the family for me. A little bit of garlic, always, right? Give them a little squish, just to loosen up those skins. Oh, I think I got a couple of cloves in that one. Yep. It's a surprise. How are things going, Ben? Or is this Heather that's just logged into Ben's account? So what I really love about this dish is, as I said before, is really like the pureed something under scallops. For whatever reason, I love that texture combination. So if you didn't have celery root, you could still do any other kind of vegetable that you would puree and put underneath. I think that pureed carrots would be really good. You'd have some nice sweetness in that. You could even do just regular potatoes, sort of like a potato mash, if you will. Even like a sweet potato would be good. So there's lots of things that you can do that you can puree up. Just gonna slice these, and I'll throw the garlic in with the celery root. Little bit, no little bits of garlic. Go big or not at all. I forget, you love garlic, don't you, Diane? I do too. I guess there should be no such thing as a little bit of garlic, right? Keeping it real over there. It's so good. I realized that we ran out of garlic a couple of days ago. And, oh, actually, no, it was last night. Last night, we made stuffed shells with spinach and ricotta. It was delicious, an Italian feast, but we had no garlic in the house. And I was like, oh, how am I going to do Italian without garlic? It turned out okay, but I mean, it turned out really, really well. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think everybody enjoyed it, but it could have been a little better with garlic. Hi, Edie. Thanks for joining. Oh, of course you do. Wonderful scallops from the Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia. I can only imagine the seafood that you have there. So Edie is also a dietitian, and she lives in Nova Scotia and actually does a lot of cooking herself. She does a lot with the Instapot. So if anybody is interested in getting ideas for Instapots, she is a really good person to go to. You can find her on Facebook. You see her name, Edie Shaw Ewald, right there. But yeah, do you have any tips, Edie, for purchasing scallops? So I live in the Midwest, where seafood is not, it's not a native eaten food, and it's hard to find seafood that is, sustainable. So do you have any tips for helping us choose some sustainably raised seafood? Or are there any kind of certifications or stamps that you specifically look for when choosing seafood? Yeah, you're welcome. It smells delicious. So we'll let this saute down a little bit, and we're going to add some kind of liquid to this just to, if you imagine that you're going to puree something, you do want a little bit of liquid there. This celery root does not have a very high water content, so it'll get pretty thick. It'll be a pretty thick puree, and we're going to want something to thin it out just a little bit. So whenever we're adding a liquid to something like this to puree, it can be as simple as water. If you want to amp up the flavor a little bit, you could do some kind of stock. So like a chicken stock, a veggie stock, a fish stock might be really nice in this, specifically tonight because we are doing scallops. If you do pair this with fish or seafood, then having some kind of fish stock would go really well, I think. We don't have any fish stock, but we are going to do maybe a little bit of a veggie base in here with some water. I think that would be good. You could also add a little bit of white wine. That would be good. And you'll just want to cook it down and cook off the alcohol from it. Add a little bit more salt and pepper here. It smells so good. Right, so I'm getting my base out of the fridge and getting a little bit of butter for when we need it. Edie, we would look for fresh scallops from the bay. Let me check into the sustainable piece. Okay, thanks. Just curious if you had any tips right off the top of your head there. Great, I'm gonna add just a teaspoon of veggie base here. And lost my lid. A little bit of water. Not too much though. Always err on the side of lightness with the water, because if you overdo the liquid, it's hard. You can't really take it out, and you'll have like a soup. You'll have a celery soup, and it won't be the thick, creamy puree that you were hoping for. Okay, we'll start with that. Let that cook a little bit. Hey, Kiki. My sous chef Kiki has arrived. You're late. And to puree this, you can either scoop everything into a blender, which is what I'm going to do tonight, or you can use one of those stick blenders or an immersion blender and just do it right here in your pot. Whatever is easiest for you. Okay, so what we're going to do right now, I'm going to let those the celery root cook just a little bit longer. I'm going to lightly, actually, you know what? I'm going to lightly saute my greens last after the scallops, and that's because these are just so thin and tender and delicate that if I cook them now and then let them sit while I'm doing the scallops, they will get cold and extremely wilted, so I'm going to hold off on that. However, if you're using a more hardy green like a kale or a collard or a chard, that needs to cook a little bit longer, so you can go ahead and start sauteing that right now. So get out a big saute pan, add a little bit of oil in there, put it on about a medium heat, chop up your greens, or if they're already pre-chopped, great, and throw those greens in the pan, stirring them frequently and seasoning them with a little bit of salt and pepper or however you want to season them. With the greens, I was planning on adding a dash of soy sauce and honey just to add sort of a, I suppose, an Asian-inspired flair to this dish, but go ahead and season your greens however you like. So I guess what I will do right now then is we're going to get the scallops going. So I am going to head back over to the stove and get my cast iron skillet going. Put it on about a medium heat. These cast iron skillets get pretty hot, so I don't want to overdo it with the heat. Add just a little bit more. Cool. Looks good. It smells delicious. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting these scallops in the pan. Once I start to hear them sizzle, then I'll know they're starting to cook. Any fun cooking tips or special cooking tips you have, Edie, for scallops? I know one thing, which took me forever to learn, was don't try to flip them too soon. Let the proteins really cook before you start to turn them over, because if they don't get fully cooked and they don't form that crust on the bottom, they're going to just latch onto the pan until they've gotten to that phase. And if you try to flip them too quickly, then you're going to rip them open and tear them, and you've got part of the scallop left behind on the pan. So just wait, just be patient. I don't know if anybody uses miso paste at home. like what they use for miso soup, but I've done a miso glazed scallop before, and it's essentially this same process, but you put some miso paste and a little bit of water in your pan so that it acts like a sauce or a glaze, and it is delicious. Miso glazed scallops. Let's see if I can make a little bit more room here. So somebody once told me that scallops are very high in cholesterol, so why should I eat them? Isn't that unhealthy? Scallops do have some cholesterol in them, but contrary to what people might believe, the fact is that cholesterol that's found in food, or what we call exogenous or dietary cholesterol, doesn't actually increase cholesterol in our bodies. And so that's kind of the same thing with eggs, right? Everybody thinks that if you eat too many eggs that your cholesterol will go up. There are some differences in genetics. There are some people who are more prone to having high cholesterol, and so if they eat eggs, then there may be an association that they have higher cholesterol, but the science shows us that that's just not how dietary cholesterol works in the body. So in a nutshell, you shouldn't worry about cholesterol in scallops raising your cholesterol in the blood, in your blood. Okay, I'm going to season these scallops with a little bit of salt and pepper. Oh, I didn't see that, Edie. She said dry your scallops before cooking. Okay. Oh, you also have some other things on here. Let's see. Scallops are a good choice in general when it comes to sustainability. They are usually farmed where they grow naturally. They eat plankton and are not grown with antibiotics. So just by eating scallops, that's a sustainable seafood choice in and of itself. Seafood Watch rates them at an excellent or good choice. Don't crowd them in the pan and don't overcook. Just cook until they are opaque. I knew that part. I am crowding my pan though. So tisk tisk to me. Okay, this celery root is looking good. I'm gonna turn the heat off here. And I'm gonna add just a touch more water, I think. Let's see. Are these quite, I think they're quite done. And I'm gonna add a little bit of water. They're soaking up that water. Just a little. Not even a quarter cup, maybe like 2 tablespoons. Smells delicious. Little bit of salt here. I am gonna add, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna add a little bit of that soy sauce and honey to these guys. I think that will be good. So why should I not crowd the pan? I'm like really self-conscious about it right now. Check this out. Hold on, let me give you a better view. Honey in a wine bottle. My dad has bees in Michigan. And so this is honey from Michigan. It's so delicious. I love it. And I love that it's in a wine bottle. Okay, Edie says she thinks it looks good. Perfect. Maybe it's not too crowded. Colleen, don't want to steam them, right? That's a good point, because that's what we say about everything else, right? We don't crowd the pan, otherwise we'll steam it and we won't really get a good crispy saute on it. Yes. Okay. That honey is good. Oh, lost a celery root. looking good. If your pan is looking dry at the bottom of this, you can just continue to add little bits of liquid along the way. And those scallops are now just coming up. They look delicious. Yes, Edie is agreeing. Correct. Let me get a plate for these scallops, and let me get a bowl to put all of this wonderful food into. That's good. Right. Just got my plate here for when these scallops are done. I can just put them on that plate and then quickly saute my greens. Although, you know, now that I'm looking at them, do I really want to saute them? I don't know. They just look so delicate and beautiful the way they are. What do you guys think? Should I saute them, or should I maybe just serve them like a kind of like a little salad, like a dressed salad? I also got these delicious pea tendrils. These were also grown locally here in, not here in Peoria, but in, where is it? Strawn, Illinois. Don't know where that is, but it's Illinois, which is great. Pea tendrils. Have you ever had pea tendrils before? They're really good. They taste like peas. They're delicious. They're nice to throw into salads. They're nice just to add a little bit of green to your meal if you don't have any greens. They were like $2 at the store. All right, I'm trying to find my tongs. They're MIA at the moment. It's okay, we can use spatula. It almost looks like apples. Oh, and it looks like potatoes too in here. Again, just gonna keep adding a little bit of water just to kind of help deglaze that pan. Scrape up all those bits that might be stuck to the bottom, because that's where all the good flavor is. Just gonna put a lid on this and trap some of that steam in there. Okay. Found them. Okay, let's see. Yes, we're gonna flip these guys. Now I see, so we've got quite a bit of liquid in here. So you're not, if you've got a lot of liquid in your pan, you likely will not get the crispy crust on the bottom of your scallop. So just know that if that's what you're looking for, you want to avoid putting too much liquid in your pan. I like that these guys are cooking in a nice sauce here. And eventually that liquid will evaporate off the longer you cook something. But again, you don't want to overcook your scallops or else they'll become rubbery. Kind of like shrimp, right? You don't really want to overcook shrimp. You don't really want to overcook any seafood if you can help it. Or I guess anything for that matter. Okay. Oh, these are looking so good. Hey, Jessica, I thought you were from South Carolina. Yes, I used to live in South Carolina, but I just moved to the Midwest in December. So different produce here now at the market, which is fun. Okay. So what do you guys think? What should I do with these greens? I think, I think I am going to let them be raw. Because they're so delicate and tender. I feel like they're just going to be a clumpy mess. Oh, they're so good. So I'm going to go ahead and just combine some of these pea tendrils. We should dress them a little bit though. Let's do that real quick while our celery root is still cooking a little bit. And I'm going to turn these scallops off and let the residual heat just cook them for another minute or so, and then I'm going to pull them off. Do you want to get maybe like a little olive oil and what kind of dressing can we make? Edie says eat them raw. Yes, okay. Done. Decision's made. I'm gonna do that. Okay, let's see. Got a little olive oil. You know what would be nice on this? Kind of like some kind of like Asian citrusy something. Let's see. We'll do some olive oil. Start with olive oil. I'll do a little bit of soy sauce here and some kind of lemon juice, which normally I really like to use some fresh lemons, but I'm kind of like going off the cuff here now. So I'm just going to use some lemon juice that we have in bottles. And maybe a little bit of honey in there too. We'll do some lemon juice. When you're making a dressing, you want some kind of fat and some kind of acid. That's just the base, the bare bones of a salad dressing. And then from there you can add in additional things to flavor it. One of our friends in the neighborhood says that to spice things up a little bit, or not spice, but to just switch things up in the salad dressing department, he'll add a little bit of jam. So like an orange marmalade or raspberry jam or something like that, just to add a little bit of a sweetness and kind of thicken up the dressing a little bit. So I haven't tried it yet, but it sounds like a really neat idea. Ooh, that's tasty. I'm gonna add a little bit of honey here just to sweeten it up a little bit. It's nice and fresh and kind of tangy. I like it. Oh yeah. Ooh. That was a pleasant surprise. See, winging it in the kitchen is sometimes a lot more fun than following a recipe. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I've got my dressing mix in the bowl. I'm gonna leave it in here, and then right before we plate everything, I'm gonna throw these greens in this big bowl, mix them, toss them together so that the dressing coats each leaf, and then put it on the plate. I'm gonna take these guys out. Now what we can also do is kind of boil down this sauce here and kind of thicken it up, and then we've got a nice sauce for our scallops whenever we plate them up. Ooh. These look good. I'm very excited. Okay, I'm gonna turn this heat back on and we'll let that come up to a simmer. All right. I think these are getting close to being done. You just want to make sure that they are tender when you pierce them with a fork or a knife. Otherwise, you're going to have some trouble pureeing them, as you can imagine. So some of these bigger chunks need just a couple more minutes. So I am going to let these cook a little bit longer. And put the lid on. Kind of trap that heat in there. Whew, this looks good. I think I'm gonna add a touch of, should I add a touch of butter? I think I'll add a touch of butter in there. Why not? Get my, I don't want to burn it, so I'm trying to be careful not to aggressively boil this. Isn't this the secret to like every delicious sauce? Butter? Something like that. I'm no chef, but it smells really good. And so don't forget, we've got some soy sauce in here, so that's sort of like an umami flavor, a little bit of salt in there from that as well. We've got a little bit of honey, so you got some sweetness. Got some nice flavors going on. Awesome. All right. So while we're waiting for the celery root to finish cooking, real quick, I'm going to give my private practice plug. If you do live in Peoria and you are wanting to work with a dietitian one-on-one, or maybe you know somebody who is either trying to lose weight, better manage their blood sugar, learn how to eat well because they have kidney disease, or maybe you know somebody who is pregnant or wanting to become pregnant and is interested in learning about appropriate nutrition for becoming a new mother, let me know, or visit my page, ashleythomasnutrition.com. I do accept insurance, so I'm taking Blue Cross Blue Shield and United Healthcare right now, and a lot of the Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO plans cover nutrition services at 100%, which means you don't have to pay anything out of pocket and there's no copays. So I can help you figure out if your plan is eligible for nutrition services. You can just give me a call or shoot me a message on my website. You'll see the contact form there, and I can do a quick eligibility check just to make sure that everything is covered and that there are no financial surprises, because nobody likes those, right? All right, that's my plug. Again, ashleythomasnutrition.com. And let's go ahead and I think I'm going to go ahead and just toss these greens together. Give that another good mix. Yes, Colleen says the butter makes it so rich. It does. So rich and delicious. And it's just a little bit of butter. It's not something that we use a whole lot, so it's not, I think butter has definitely gotten a bad name, as have many fats. But fat is good. Fat helps us feel satisfied, and it's all about getting the right fat. The right fat most of the time. Okay, just going to get in with my hands here and just mix this all together. Oh, these greens are so pretty. Yeah, I'm really glad that we did not cook these. I'm just going to use this whole thing. This is going to be delicious. So this way, you know, there's nothing more that drives me crazy than when you have dressing on a salad and some parts of the salad are dressed and some are not. This helps you ensure that every leaf or lettuce leaf is coated with dressing so that every bite is delicious. Got to put some love into your salads if you're gonna enjoy eating salads. You gotta just put some love in all of your food if you're gonna enjoy eating healthy. Wonderful. What do you think about this? Do you think this is like a really boring salad? Because it's just greens? Because you can have a salad that's just greens. It's okay. You don't feel like you have to put a whole bunch of fancy vegetables and a bunch of stuff on it. We're getting lots of balance in this meal. We're getting some wholesome carbs with that celery root, vegetables from these greens here, and some good protein from the scallops. So we're hitting all of those important food groups, which helps to balance calorie intake and helps our body get all of the necessary nutrients that it needs in order to function optimally. All right, let's go back over here. Oh no, look, I've already forgotten. Y'all, I ruined it. I'm sure Colleen is rolling her eyes in the other room. Oh, actually, you know what? It might not be that bad. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna let that hang out for a minute. Just sit there. We'll see by the end of the show what's going on with that. Ooh, these are looking soft. I think these are ready to puree. Just gotta get them pureed and then that's it. We're done. Yeah, those are good. Okay, I'm gonna turn the heat off here. I'm gonna scoop these guys into my blender. If this happens to you and you burn your sauce, it's not a problem. You can quickly make a new one by mixing together soy sauce and honey and heating it up for just a couple minutes. Or you could simply just drizzle that mixture without cooking it onto your final dish. Or you could just go without it. Not a big deal. Right, get these guys in here. Okay. I'm going to mute you so that it's not too loud. It will be loud. So if you've blended it up and things are not really moving around smoothly, that's your cue to add a little bit of liquid. So we're going to add some water here. Again, you can go ahead and add some stock or whatever kind of liquid it is that you're using. But again, be careful not to add too much because you can't really take it back at this point. There we go. I think that's good. Yeah. A little more water. The theme of tonight, just a little more water. Yeah, a space shuttle loud. I love that blender, but it's loud. It is loud when you get it on that high speed. It is loud. And I just realized I didn't mute the volume again, but that's okay. I'm sure. Well, it's not okay. I'm sorry if it was loud for you guys. All right, now taste and see. Ooh, it tastes like celery. Okay, you do have to like celery if you're gonna cook celery root. It's a different kind of celery though. It's creamy and delicious. So what I'm gonna do, I think it needs just a touch more. Oh, butter. We didn't add the butter yet, did we? Let's add a little bit of butter in here just to enhance the butteriness of it. And then we'll blend it up again. And that will be that. You could add, taste yours, see how it is. If you need to add a little bit of salt, add some salt. You could also add some fresh herbs into here. That would be really nice. I'm going to mute you now. Okay, if I haven't lost you yet, we're gonna go ahead and plate it now. So grab a bowl. I like this to be a bowl meal because it's a puree, so you want it to not slide all over your plate. And don't leave off that part. That part's good too. I'm gonna save it in here for someone who wants to come by and lick it off. Scoop some of our celery root in here. Ooh, yes. It's very hot, but it looks very delicious. And it tastes delicious. Okay, celery root puree. We're gonna go over to the stove and get our scallops on here. And however many you can, a lot. Oh, they're so good. And then we'll put our greens on top. A lot of greens. Look at that, beautiful. You could garnish it with some herbs. Maybe some sesame seeds would be good too, or some other kind of nut like sunflower seed, or pistachios even would be good. And if you didn't burn your sauce on the stove, you could drizzle some sauce over the top. That would be delicious. So here it is. Took a little bit longer than a normal show. Just keep in mind, if you're new to Cook With Me TV, normally our meals take 30 minutes or less to cook. This one was a little more labor intensive. The celery root took a little bit longer, right? To peel it, chop it up, saute it down to get it soft, and then blend it up. But that's really the only labor-intensive part of this meal. The salad and the scallops were relatively quick. So if you can, ahead of time, you could peel and chop the celery root ahead of time, maybe the day before or right when you bring it home from the grocery store over the weekend. That would help save you some time when putting this meal together. So just kind of always be thinking ahead of maybe little things that you can do here and there that save you some time in the kitchen when cooking dinner during the week. Because cooking dinner during the week, it sounds like it can be a stressful thing to do, especially when you have so many things going on in your week. But I promise you, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the more it becomes a meditation for you. Really do kind of clear your mind. You can't think about anything else, and all you can think about is the task at hand, which is cooking. So I advocate for cooking for that reason, if nothing else. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh, hey, Sarah, thanks for joining. Would love to see some recipes with kohlrabi. You got it. Kohlrabi coming up. Love that. So I'm here every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Central, and maybe next week I'll cook with kohlrabi. We'll have to see. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.